Hi everyone, my name's Calder, so I'm from the Bowdoin Orient. I don't have a presentation or anything, but I'm just going to chat about this story that I worked on that to quite a large degree contributed to my own kind of journalistic education. So basically, I want to talk about telling deeply personal student stories at a very small college. So Bowdoin only has 1,800 students, and kind of how not to victimize students, while also highlighting the issue in which the college administration really didn't treat students well in certain cases. So just some background on the story first. So for a long time, we kind of anecdotally heard that the administration was pushing students with minor health problems who wanted to be on campus to take medical leaves, felt that they didn't want to have any kind of part-time students at the institution was the party line in that case. We really only started the story with one student who was willing to and was really actually motivated to talk to us about her own experience. So actually, I reported this story with two other people, and we took kind of separated by a summer. We took about 9 months to report the story, and we ended up speaking to like around 30 students and I believe 12 administrators. So speaking about the administration aspect at first, this one was kind of not as interesting to me, but I think one of the key takeaways that I took from that was the importance of having data when talking to the administration. So the first few conversations we had with administration officials were not particularly productive because we were kind of just beginning to get an outline of the story and beginning to understand that. But as we got more student perspectives, understood more data, we were able to go to them with like very specific questions and claims and have them respond to that. And once that happened, we really were able to get some interesting notes out of that. So kind of one thing that we always, in discussing stories, one thing that the Orient editors have always told me and all of our reporters is one of the final questions you should always ask is, who else should I speak with about this story? Is there anybody else who you know who's involved? And I think that that's without a doubt, a good note. But I really think that the answer to that question is very contingent upon the interview that you've had beforehand. So that seems kind of obvious, but if you've had a contentious or negative interview, your subject doesn't think you're going to report the story fairly, then they're not going to give you good information. But if you're able to establish kind of a personal relationship and have a positive conversation or conversations with that person, they're going to be much more willing to move forward with giving you more sources and helping you to better understand the story. So in terms of asking for interviews, this was actually one instance in which having a small college actually helped in reporting the story because our staff is about, the people on staff who really contribute quite a bit is about 50. So 50 out of 1,800, there's a pretty broad network that we can rely on there. So in asking for those interviews, we really were able to rely on personal relationships that people had and different things that people understood about their friends, about classmates, and really relied on that to kind of get the ball rolling on people who are willing to talk. And we also did a lot of research into student groups on campus dealing with medical leave issues, dealing with mental health issues. So it really felt pretty huge at the beginning. So to kind of self-contain that, just talking about the interview process itself, this is something that I really took from this story, and I think is a really important thing to note, which is that in interviewing another student or an administrator or whoever it is, you really don't have to sit down at a table, have your notebook of questions, ask those questions, and then ask follow-up questions, which seems like the kind of obvious thing to do with an interview. That was what I had always done kind of before the story, but I really think the importance of getting to know your subject and kind of moving into their space is really key and was really key in reporting this story. So if people are more comfortable, if you have a conversation with somebody, they'll think, this person's going to tell this story responsibly, and I'm happy we had this conversation. So the way that played out in practice was not just meeting in the student union for interviews, but going to places people were working on art or walking around campus with them, hanging out on the quad, doing all of that kinds of stuff that you do with your friends at college. And that really without a doubt helped people, I think, feel more comfortable with us, and that really kind of changed the answer to that first question, which was, who else should I speak with about this story? So I really think that that is a key takeaway. The best profiles I've ever read have all involved the reporter spending a significant amount of time with their interview subject and really developing a personal relationship with them. And I think that that can be extended not only to like broad feature stories, but to news stories as well. Since then, even in reporting smaller stories, I've really attempted to use those lessons that I've learned there in kind of all of the interviews that I've had. So I kind of think the special thing about student journalism really is like having the ability to tell the stories of people at my college. Like that's what I'm really personally interested in about journalism and student journalism in particular. And so what's so interesting, I think, about the college environment, or at least my experience with it, has been we all go to the same institution, we take many of the same classes, but people have like incredibly divergent backgrounds and an incredibly different understanding of their school. So in my view, it's kind of our responsibility to have these conversations with people and make them conversations rather than question, answer, because when you come into a story with a bunch of questions and follow-up questions, and that's all that you kind of maintain, you are really kind of placing your own understanding of the institution, your own previous understanding of the story upon your interview subjects. So having those conversations really allowed me to kind of step out of my own epistemological framework and really better understand interview subjects myself. So in a way, not only is getting to know interview subjects important for making them comfortable in agreeing to an interview and sharing their own story, but it's also, I think, really particularly important in reporting that story ethically oneself. So yeah, those were my main takeaways, and that's all I've got. So thanks for listening.